There are two kinds of people in this world. The people who fail to do what they know they should, and those who keep doing things they know they shouldn't. Guess what? You're both. Hi, I'm your host, life and business coach, Marcy Barker, aka your loving kick in the pants. In this podcast, I'll teach you the 6 steps of my accountability code that will help you wake up with clarity and show up with aligned action steps that make follow through easy and peaceful. All right, let's jump in. Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to 2024. Can you believe that it's a new year already? I can. I feel like sometimes years go by really, really slow. And then other times it's like, how did it get here already? But I'm ready for a new year. My 2023 was not bad, but oh my gosh, there was so much that happened. I actually spoke in church a couple weeks ago. The title of my talk was Hard Times Are Also Healing Times. And I could sum up my last year of 2023 being like, a lot of big things happened. And I didn't share a lot of it on the podcast because I wanted to keep it business focused. I also am going through a period where I'm like, I don't need to share my entire life with the internet, which has also been really healing for me too. So I'm excited for this new year because the word I've chosen for the year is ease. And I feel like since making some massive changes last year, a lot of things are getting easier for me. And I was telling somebody too that when you cut out things in your life that don't really matter, you'll find that being accountable to the things that do matter become a lot more easy. So I actually came up with more words for the year to help me stay intentional and productive. So my word for the year is ease. And my word for the quarters is efficiency. My word for the months are enough. And my word for the days are effort. And I just think it's kind of fun. They all happen to start with E. But if I break all of those things down, I'm really excited to have an intentional year that's just a continuation of things I've already done. And I hope that this podcast has been a source of strength for you as you are continuing to try and be accountable, because the new year we know is like, this is not the start of something big. This is like you're continuing to do things that you've already built. And obviously we're working with a lot of past and a lot of history in your habits, in the things that you do, in your processes, your relationships, like everything is a continuation. So if you feel so inclined, I would also create a word for your quarter, for your month, and for your day too, if it gives you the intention that you need. So what I want to talk about today is sustaining accountability with new habits, because obviously it's the beginning of the year. So everybody's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, which I absolutely love because, you know, December 31st is a deadline and January 1st is a starting point for a lot of people, especially in business. You know, it's year end. There's a lot of things that we try to do to make our business great, and on a business calendar, January 1st is definitely a date that signifies something new. So we're going to talk about that. I also want to let you know that this year, my group Lady Bosses of Utah is doing a lot of stuff, and we have over 25 mastermind events that people can attend. Now, if you're in Utah, you're in luck because all of the events are in person minus 4 of them. And those are online masterminds that I am discussing or teaching or hosting for people who can't always come in person. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not even in Utah, you can get involved. So I'm really excited about that. So tomorrow, this is the very first online mastermind that I'm going to do in 2024. So if you want to go deeper about how to sustain your new habits with being more accountable, then this is going to be really good for you. And if you're like, no, I'm not available tomorrow, or I'm listening to this podcast after January 3rd and 4th, it's like, that's okay. Message me and I have the replays available, and they're only $25. So I recommend you looking into that if you need help sustaining your new habits with accountability, because there's nothing better than putting something on your calendar to plan for future success that makes it happen. What I want to do today is I want to go over 5 different questions that I'm going to talk about in the mastermind discussion that will help you wrap your head around being more accountable and sustaining accountability to your new habits. So the very first question is, what are you even in business for?
And I say that with an attitude because I feel like sometimes this is a question that it's kind of like a slap upside your head. It's like, what are you even doing? Because a lot of times in business, we get going on these different goals or collaborations, and a lot of times they're not in alignment with what we really want. And so if you can answer for yourself, why are you even in business? Then this is going to help you recognize if those things that you're taking on are supportive of what you really want. So why am I even in business? There's a few different reasons. Obviously, people are in business to make money, but I don't want to make money being my driving factor for everything that I do, because we know money doesn't create happiness, and it obviously doesn't sustain your happiness either. There's a lot of people with a lot of money who are not happy. So one reason I'm in business is because being in business cultivates an environment for me to become a better person. It gives me healthy challenges. It gives me healthy opportunities to say, hey, what am I doing in my life, in my business that needs to be improved? And it's a very proactive way to become who you want to become. In your own business, you have to recognize, why are you in business? If you're in business just to make a couple $100 a month, or, pay your family's groceries, or if you're trying to hit big influencer status, like, what is it? You have to know what it is, because if you are not sure why you're in business, then guess what? Some of those habits that you decide you want to do, they're not going to stick, because trust me, if they're not in alignment, then you're going to be met with resistance that stops you from moving forward. So that's the first question. Take a moment to answer it. What are you even in business for? All right, the next question is, what does accountability mean to you? And I've probably shared this on the podcast before, but after I wrote my book, I went to lunch with a group of business people, and somebody who was brand new to me, we were eating chips and salsa, and he said, so you really wrote a book on accountability? And I said, yeah. And he said, that means you always have to be on top of your game though. And I was like, okay. And so do you, because we never get a break from being accountable, because that's just life. There's responsibilities and expectations that we have to do, especially if you're an adult. You have to do certain things. So when you ask yourself, what does accountability mean to you? For that man, it was always being on top of everything. And in a sense, I agree with that, being on top of everything. But where I like to tweak the narrative is, what does everything mean? Accountability is the ability to fulfill desired expectations. And when accountability becomes too much, it means that we are trying to live up to expectations that aren't right for us, or they are not our own. So what does accountability mean to you? You have to ask yourself, am I trying to do what everybody wants me to do? Or do I want to strive to be accountable because it creates peace and happiness in my life, or it creates a sense of fulfillment, or it gives me a purpose when I wake up in the morning? When you recognize what accountability means to you, it's so much fun, and it's motivating to do, because you understand the benefits behind it. So ask yourself, what does accountability mean to you? And get serious, get honest with it. And there will be times where you have to tell other people or explain to other people what accountability means to you, because I can't tell you how much in my life growing up I was harped on about accountability, and it was always through the lens of somebody else. And it wasn't until I learned for myself what it meant that it became really easy and peaceful.
Hey listeners, the message of waking up and showing up is yours for the taking. In fact, it's free. I've recorded my entire audiobook, and I'd love for you to consume it between episodes. Head to marcybarker.com to get instant access to the accountability code Wake Up and Show Up. All right, let's jump back in.
The third question I want to ask is, when have you been the most accountable in your life? I like to ask this question, especially to my clients, because a lot of times people believe that we got to start fresh. We got to start cold turkey, like January 1st. Okay, it's the beginning of the new year. I got to do this. But like I said in the intro, everything is a continuation of what you've already been doing. So when we talk about being or recognizing when you are the most accountable in your life, we can tap into those things that are already working for you. What are the things that make your life easier? So for me, living by my calendar, that helps me be really, really accountable. And if somebody said, hey, I want you to be accountable without your calendar, I would mentally be like, nah, nope, not going to happen. Because I don't have the capacity to remember every detail, every link, every location, every person I'm meeting with, right in my mind. So for me, I'm able to be more accountable when I'm organized in my schedule. Another thing that I've been working on for the past couple of months since I planned out my whole year was I recognize that in order for me to be more accountable to my goals, I have to eat healthy. I have to be fueled well. I have to know that my physical being is going to be the key factor in how I show up every day. So when have you been the most accountable in your life? Now, when I was like the healthiest too, with meals and tracking my macros and exercising, like I was a personal trainer and nutrition coach. So I actually got paid to put on that sort of lifestyle and do it over and over and over again. And over the past couple of years, since I switched from that or shifted from fitness, I'm like, oh, I need to eat healthy and I'm not going to post about it. I don't need to post what meals I'm eating, what I'm tracking, what I'm doing at the gym. And I'm so glad that I don't have to do that anymore because it's not in alignment for me. But to tie that in with when have I been most accountable in my life is when I had a reason to show up. So in order for you to maintain a level of accountability, you have to pull in from those things that have made you successful in the past. And I'm not talking about like your entire life. There's going to be different pieces that you can look back and you say, hey, you know what? I liked how I looked when I was doing that. I liked how I felt when I was doing that thing. And you start implementing just those little things. So we're going to pull from those great things that worked and then we're going to add to them. So you have to first take a second and write it down. What were the things that you did when you felt most accountable? And why was that? All right, question number 4. Is it more about adding in or about subtracting things instead? Now, this is really, really cool after you accept the fact that you're probably doing way too much. And even if you're on the side of like, no, I'm actually pretty lazy, I feel like if you're listening to a podcast about accountability, you are probably one of the people who are trying to do it all. You're trying to balance everything and you have a lot on your plate. And I want you to lean in to how you're feeling about like, am I doing a lot, or are there things on my plate that I should probably get rid of? Things that aren't my responsibility. And when I talked about my 2023 being full of a lot of big things, one of the big things was stepping away from responsibilities that aren't mine. And I'm even talking about like supporting people in situations that aren't mine, because I am a very organized and able-bodied person, which meant if things were easy for me to help others, I would jump in and help him, because I knew, okay, this thing will take me 5 minutes to do, but if this person had to do it, it's going to take them 30 minutes. So I used to be the kind that was like, hey, let me just do that for you real fast. And I got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Not only because it's draining me, but more importantly, I am not allowing people to be accountable to their own stuff. And the two parts to that, recognizing like, it's not my job and they need to learn how to be accountable. I've also gone a step further of like, it's their job. I don't even need them to be accountable because it's not even my thing. Like, I just need to step away and let it be what it's going to be. And I can promise you that as you subtract those things from your life, it's so much easier to go out and do the things that you know you should. So I want you to sit with that for a second. When it comes to being more accountable and sustaining new habits, is it really about doing more? Or are there things in your life that you're like, yeah, I probably should stop that. I definitely should probably stop that. So ask yourself that. And you might be on the fence or on the side of the fence where you're like, no, I know I'm lazy. I know I need to do more stuff. And the cool part about this is you're the only one that can answer for you. So be honest about it, and it's going to do you a world of good as you move forward. All right, the last question that I want to ask you is, how much money would you make if you mastered that thing? Now, in the mastermind, we are going to talk about, or if we've passed the date, the things that we did talk about was, what's that one thing that if you did or you mastered, it would make everything easier or completely irrelevant. Okay. So when I went through last year and I planned out my whole year, I was going through all of my goals and I was prioritizing the things that needed to happen in order for me to hit my goals. And the number one thing that kept popping up for me was regular, healthy meals. And when you think about, okay, I'm going to have a $50,000 launch, I'm going to make $100,000 in the fall alone, you would think that it's about your email list, your clients, your offer, and all of that. But no, for me, it was like, am I going to be eating well? Am I going to have breakfast? Am I going to have lunch available when I need to take a break from my computer? So I have doubled down on eating regular meals. And I'm so proud of myself because it's been a long time since I meal prepped the way that I used to. And I'm so happy to say that in my freezer right now, in my garage, I have 7 meals prepped and planned. I have beef and broccoli. I have broccoli cheddar soup. And what's the last one that I made? Anyway, there's 2 other meals in there. So the fact is, doing those things, I'm able to show up and work because I know that when I need a meal, it's there for me. I've done the prep work to nourish myself so I can show up as my best self. So anyway, you're going to have to think about like, what's that one thing that if you did it, it would make everything easier. And this is really the beauty of the accountability code, is getting really clear on all the things that are happening and then taking it through the process of like, let me narrow down this whole plan into a few action steps that are going to move the needle in the right way and bring me peace and happiness because it's in alignment. So I want you to ask yourself, how much money would you make if you mastered that thing? Like, how much more productive would you be? How much more sustainable would your accountability be if you focused on the one thing first and then let other things slide into place or take care of themselves or just drop themselves off because they're not in alignment anymore? Because there definitely are things that become irrelevant when you get really accountable and productive with the things that you care about. So that is, in a nutshell, how you will sustain accountability to new habits. And I know that sometimes it seems very big and hard and time consuming, but I want you to know that, very similar to that first question, what are you even in business for? It's like, why are you even listening to this podcast? What is that reason that you're like, I want more accountability in my life? Focus on that one thing and have the courage to address it, because nothing else in your life will be successful or productive if you continue to put off the very one thing that you need to do the most. And it's going to be different for everybody. It will 100% be different for everybody. So I encourage you, if you haven't yet, get the audiobook and take your challenge or goal through the accountability code, and you're going to get more clarity. And better yet, you can book a free call with me and I'll be happy to take you through the accountability code and give you that loving kick in the pants to doing that one thing that's going to help you sustain your accountability to your new habits in the new year.
Hey friends, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. If you got any value out of this episode, I would love for you to drop me a review or share with a friend what you learned. All right, I'll see you next Wednesday for Your Loving Kick in the Pants.